This is Deep Blue, where we get the true life stories of BYU athletes, coaches, and fans. Here's your host, Jarom Jordan.
On today's show, I talk with a coach who has been at BYU for 30 years, coaching numerous PGA Tour winners, players, conference championships, getting to NCAA tournaments regularly. He has done it all, and he can still swing the sticks. He is men's golf coach, Bruce Brockbank. Bruce, what's up, man? How you doing?
Doing great. You know, it's that time of year. We're getting the golf season started, so it's when the sun's shining, we're always excited to get out and get going.
And you guys get to do what everyone wants. Flee the snow and go to warmer weather.
We do have that. We do have that privilege. We, most of our tournaments out of the 12, 13 that we play each year, all of them are on the road except for the Cougar Classic. So we get to go to the warm weather areas quite often.
And then what, April at Riverside and Provo?
You bet.
That's always nice.
April and May, June, Riverside, and then, love to play up in Park City at those courses in the fall. So we're pretty blessed for sure.
Is men's golf coach the best coach to be? I'm not talking the financial part of this. That would be football. I'm talking you get to hang out at the golf course all the time and play yourself probably sometimes. Is this awesome?
It is the best job on the campus for sure. And it was even better when Coach Tucker had it because he was the ski school director.
Oh, wow.
And I did do that for a little while, but they've since taken away that part. So just in the last 5 years. But I for my first 25 years, I was involved in the ski program when there was snow on the ground and then the golf coach. But, we kind of keep that under... we keep that really private just so people don't know. But yes, I think
now it's out.
We probably have I have one of the best jobs on campus and very fortunate to have it.
Tell me about being a ski school instructor.
What we do is we have skiing, snowboarding, and cross country that comes out of, when I first started, it was physical education. And it's the ski class. And you can sign up for any one of those three. And we have an orientation on campus. Yep. And then we bus them up the second week. And from the second through the seventh week, the kids get into their classes and they learn, whether you're never on skis, snowboard, and then, like I said, cross country. And the Sundance instructors will teach the kids. And it's one of those hidden gems on campus that you can take a ski class. Mostly the upper-level students will take it. It's just to kind of get away and refresh. But it's a great class that really fun to be involved with.
That's amazing. So is it still going on? It's just not part of your gig anymore?
Correct. Yeah, about 4 or 5 years ago, they turned it over to somebody else in the recreation program, and so they run the ski school. But Karl Tucker, who coached for 30-plus years also at BYU, who was my coach, he started the ski school, and, when he got to where he was kind of phasing out, I would run it for him for 3 or 4 years, and then I just kind of fell into the same thing he was doing.
And we'll get into all these timelines and talk a lot about Karl on the program here today, but was this in the early 90s at this point, late 80s?
Oh, no.
When you took over?
Yeah,
way before that.
Yeah, well, I was helping him when I was I graduated in 88 or finished my eligibility. And then from 88 to 92, I was his assistant. And fortunately for me, when he retired, they hired me. And through that whole time, I had been skiing with Coach, playing golf with Coach, and then playing for Coach. And we just had a great time.
What an awesome life. Skiing and golfing your whole life. Like when people die, I want to be like, how was your life? Like, where did you live? What did you do? I want to talk with people throughout the eons of time here on the earth. They'll be like, what did you do? You'll be like, well, there was a thing called golf. You just hit a ball with a stick. That was fun. And then, we'd slide down on the mountains. That was what I did. That's like the greatest life I could possibly imagine, Bruce, honestly.
That's why I said it's probably one of the best positions you could ever have on campus because that's what I've done for 30 years.
Okay, so can you snowboard too? Did you snowboard?
No, I'm
as part
just
of
a skier.
You're a skier.
I have not snowboarded yet or tried it.
Yeah.
But I still would like to get out and do that. I'm waiting for one of those 2-foot powder days to get on a snowboard.
The problem is you have to get out of your driveway. And then by then, all the energy has been used.
For sure. That's for sure.
Let's got a nice snowblower. I'm working on that. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning here. It's a very good place to start, The Sound of Music. You're from here locally, are you not?
Yep.
Okay, Provo specifically?
Yeah,
Provo High?
Yep. Timpview High.
Timpview, okay.
Yes.
Give us a sense of the Provo-Timpview rivalry back when you were in high school. This is the 80s, right?
Yes.
Are we playing games in the Marriott Center, right?
Yes, we are.
At this point?
Yeah.
They don't do this anymore.
I was watching from the stands when it was going on, but it was quite a rivalry. Provo High, having their run with everybody, winning state high school championships. And then
Is Devin Duran in high school at this point?
Uh-huh.
Around the same time?
I remember that name and then remember him from BYU. But yes, that group and many others that were, and then down the road was the Santiagos and some of those that were at Provo High School. But
Kevin and Brian.
they used to.
Yep.
They used to put a whooping on us, and then the T-Birds started showing up and got a little bit tougher in football, and then basketball it was a little bit more of a game, and then I'm always going to talk about the golf team. I think at one point we had 7 state high schools in a row, so we just had that. It was always a great rivalry between the the Bulldogs and the T-Birds, and still is. But it was really fun to grow up in the Provo area.
Spencer and I, one of the first things we did and together was call some Provo and Timpview High School basketball and football games. This was really fun for us. One time at a Timpview game, one of the Provo High School kids, this is in the mid-2000s, brought a dead chicken, a bird, not a thunderbird, but a bird, and just threw it on the court in the middle of a basketball game. And they had to stop the game, clean it up. I was like, what is this rivalry? Yeah. It's crazy. It could be crazy.
Yeah, it definitely could be crazy. And there's been a lot of things happen that I'll just go ahead and leave alone.
There was an onside kick up 50 from Timpview against Provo one time because a kid got reported and they were mad and violated. Whatever. Anyway, Provo Timpview. It runs deep, right? Okay, how many kids are in your family? What was life like growing up here?
Let's see. All of us played golf. My dad and mom, they built a house in the river bottoms out there, and so we moved around quite a bit in elementary school. I think I went to 4 elementary schools, and we lived in the river bottoms.
All in Provo?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
We didn't move out of the house, and I went to Edgemont Elementary, then to Cascade over in Orem, and then to Hillcrest, and then I went to both Orem Junior and Fair, and then finally to Timpview High School, which I started and finished there.
Mm. How did that shape you? Because I moved a bunch as a kid, and my wife claims I'm crazy because of this. But there's also a certain element of development that happens when you move, and you have to be the new kid and stuff like that.
Well, I was the oldest. I think at times it was pretty hard, because you never really have the same friends, and you're always making new friends, which was a positive thing. But, I was always pretty shy and quiet and, and kind of hang back until I had to say something. So that were some of the effects. But I loved the people in Provo and in Orem, the kids that I met, had a lot of friends and still have them now to this day. My siblings, my brother Chris, and then Stephanie and Scott all played golf, and we all played for Timpview. And then a lot of our friends, the Eggertsons, the O'Briens, the Stangers, and I'm leaving a few out. We just had a great run. We had a great golf professional, Bill Corns, who won, I think, 5, 6, 7 state amateurs, was our golf professional. He was really good with the kids. And so when we had the support at the club, as well as our high school coach, Barry Olson. We just, that group of kids, I think we had at that time, there were 6 or 7 of our guys that were scratch golfers. And I'm sure there were other teams like that, but it was the first of its kind, at least in my mind, where you had every one of your guys that could shoot under par.
That's pretty good.
So, I mean, that's kind of that was the Brockbank family, and we loved being at Timpview.
So are your parents the ones to kind of initiate golf? Or is it some friends that are playing? Like, how does that start?
That's a great question. My dad grew up in Salt Lake. They were all into real estate and contractors, his family, and he decided, you know what, I'm going to go to Utah Valley and try something different. I think he played 4 or 5 sports in high school. In fact, he played for Coach Tucker in junior high when Karl was just kind of getting started.
Wow.
And
where was this?
This was at, let's see, I want to say Granite Junior High.
So out on the west side in Salt Lake Valley?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, it's on the
Is
east
that
side.
where? East side? Okay, yeah. I'm thinking
and I'm
West
thinking
Valley,
I may
not
be
Granite.
wrong.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where he started. I think he kind of got a little bit of a taste of the golf. But when he came down here, his first thing was to figure out how he was going to stay busy, join the club. He started getting to know some of the BYU golfers back early in Karl's career, and he just fell in love with it. And then it kind of he used to bring the BYU team, the players over all the time. And so when I was 7, 8, 9 years old,
you're hanging with these guys.
I'm hanging with these guys, and then I was caddy for him in the Cougar Classic way back when they'd let you have a caddy. So I mean, I've known the BYU golf program or parts of it since I was 8 years old.
So are you ever caddying for like Johnny Miller or some of
I
these
have
guys?
Pictures. Yeah, I don't think I was a little bit behind Johnny Miller, but I knew Mike Brannon. I knew and Mike Reed, Pat McGowan, and I have pictures of caddying for those guys, and I got
That's
to be
awesome.
where I was early teenager and knew Bobby Clampett really well. But I mean, there's so many guys that have, come along that have been. That's where I hung out every day because I just absolutely loved being around the golf course and playing the game, and especially to be influenced by so many of the BYU players. That's what, as a young kid, that's what I wanted to do was play at BYU.
So early on, like how old are you when you're like, hey, I want golf to be a part of my life, like a big part of my life?
I would have to say when I would say 8 years old, but definitely by 12 years old when I could play the course on my own. You had to be a certain age, and then you had to pass the player ability test, if you will, at the club, just a little, a junior golf thing. That's when I could start hanging out there full time, and so I was stuck when I was about 12 because that's all I wanted to do.
You're eating it up.
Eating it up.
Are you playing other sports as well, and this is your first love, or is it like all-in golf?
I was, I was playing baseball at the time. Loved basketball. A little bit slow all the time, but I did play baseball up until I was about 17 years old. I was pitcher, a shortstop. Didn't throw it very hard, but loved a little bit of baseball. But it was quickly fading away as I got a little bit better at playing golf.
Were you pretty good? Because generally we like what we're good at. So, I can't ski worth anything. I don't go skiing. I'm not like, yeah, you know what I do? I ski. No, I'm terrible at it. When were you realizing, hey, I'm actually good at this?
Going back, we had our golf professional there. He was really good with all the members' kids. He was keeping us busy.
Where is
He was
this?
challenging us at Riverside
At
Country
Riverside.
Club.
So you grew up at Riverside.
Grew up at Riverside.
You're still at Riverside.
Still at Riverside, and and to be able to hang out with the guys on the team. And like I said, I had a bunch of friends. That's just what we did. And when we were home practicing, we were there. And when we were out competing, it would be a carpool. And one of the moms would drive with 6 or 7 of us, and we would head up to the Utah Junior Golf Tournaments. And that's where we would be. And then if there was time at the end of the day, we'd be back at the club and practicing and just doing what we could. So was the game okay? I would say that when I got to be 14, 15, I was really adamant about trying to play Division I golf, and it was really close to when Karl won his national championship. So
81.
Yeah, we were right around. I'd have to say that was 78, 79 is when I really thought, maybe I'm going to give this a shot.
You're kind of 8th, 9th grade at this point.
Yeah.
Pretty impressionable. 10th grade.
Yeah, 10th grade.
Sophomore looking at, hey, and are you all in BYU?
Oh, yeah.
You're all in.
All in.
And was the
That's when when was Ainge doing his thing?
Yeah,
I mean,
78
I
to
remember.
81.
I tell all my kids. I tell my wife after every game. I said, "This is where my dad and I would take off after Ainge would score 30 points, and we'd run down from the Marriott Center, go down to the parking lot at the, Lavelle Edwards Stadium, which wasn't then at that time, but we'd run down where there was perfect weather, snow, whatever, and I just remembered I was, my chest was out, and I was going to come to BYU and play sports, whatever it was."
We just, a couple weeks ago, had a conversation about 2021 and where it fit in the best years in BYU athletics. 81 was the year that came up in the conversation in the top 5 because it's McMahon's senior year. I think BYU loses 1, maybe 2 games that year in football. Obviously, Ainge and the shot against Notre Dame and going to the Elite Eight. This is the best basketball team BYU's ever had. In that game, by the way, against Notre Dame, there's like 10 NBA players. It's like ridiculous. And then obviously golf, winning the first team national championship, I believe, in BYU history, which is special.
And the only one.
And the only one. So many. It's the 84 for football. It's the 81 for men's golf, right? The albatross you're trying to chase, right? It's a special time, and you're a sophomore, and BYU, of course, is a spot. It sounds like, right?
Oh, for sure.
And that influence of your dad and I guess Karl is a figure in your life. Like, what's the relationship there at that point?
I just knew. Like I said, these guys were over at the house all the time, but they didn't have to come to the house because I was always at the golf course. And,
you'd go to them and they'd come to you?
Oh, yeah. They took a liking to my dad. And,
I guess what was your dad, what was it with the program what involvement did he have?
He just, he was one of the guys at the club who was very supportive to the team.
Big fan.
Yeah, big fan,
Gotcha.
And he was going to do everything that he can. And there was a time where he started managing golfers or professional athletes for a little while. So he was, and he got in that a little bit. But there was, it was that was kind of the thing. Karl did an incredible job. The athletes that he had coming in during those times, from Johnny Miller, Mike Taylor, those guys started that tradition, and we've tried to continue that for up until this day. There was some really talented golfers, and so it was easy for you to kind of say, "Wow, I want to hang out with these guys or be around them." And so, there's a lot of things that have changed, but you can still. That's your way of getting to these athletes is to go play golf with them sometimes.
That's amazing, and playing golf with someone's one of the best hangs ever.
Sure.
You can learn a lot about a person playing golf, can you not?
That is for sure.
How competitive you are, whether you gamble.
That might be why they were so drawn to my dad, because he had a temper and he could do some pretty crazy stuff with a golf club. So that was part of the conversation, and that carried on in the family as well. I just had to tone it down a little bit as I grew up.
Do you have the same temper?
Oh yeah, it's in there, but I've learned to try to tone it down when it needs to be toned down.
Yes.
Pretty competitive, yes.
To be a D1 coach, can't be that passive, right?
No.
You got to want to win. You got to hate to lose more than you want to win sometimes, right?
For sure.
Okay, so you're in high school. You're at Timpview. You're living the dream. You're like, this is awesome. The guys are coming over. Danny Ainge, Jim McMahon. This is like one of the best times. In our conversation, 81 was definitely top 5. Initially, I started at 81 being the best ever. I cooled off from that a little bit, and I thought, you know what, 2021, given the Big 12 invite, given, football going 11 and this last year 10-3, and basketball doing its thing, and soccer and cross country individuals, and I think 21 was the best year ever. I don't know. The Big 12 kind of puts it over the top. I don't know how you feel. You've seen in that 40-year span as a fan / member of the BYU Athletic Department here as a coach, those realms. What do you think? Like, was 21 one of the best, if not the best?
Yeah, it's
81.
It's definitely. I mean, for golf, obviously, Karl had what he had 5 or 6 runner-ups. He was biting at the. He was really close for a lot of years, and so for the golf program, that was a big deal. And then he just continued to get really, really close and had many chances, and for whatever reason, finished second instead of first. But that was big. But you'd have a hard time convincing anybody that 21's not the greatest year, just because of, everything that was going on, our administration, Tom, just the way it played out, it kind of, for me, being here for so long, it blows you away, because 2 or 3 years before that, you're wondering, because you got things moving so quickly and we're kind of in this independent mode, and you're wondering, well, what's going to happen? And then boom, all of a sudden it blows up and things just start happening. And 21's got to take the cake.
That's saying a lot.
Yeah.
That's saying a lot.
You got to remember, though, that's coming from a little old golf coach. So
You've seen all these years, which has been awesome. Let's take a side route right here. Give me a sense of what it's like to be a head coach in the athletic department with Tom at the helm, especially given what this athletic department chose to do in COVID, which is we're not going to sit back. We're going to be aggressive and do everything we can to compete, and BYU has thrived since that moment. That was one of the best decisions that ever happened.
It really is amazing. In fact, I found myself in the last 2 weeks talking about it quite often because people will ask that question. In fact, this morning in our team meeting, I told the guys, we're talking about the COVID and the protocols and things that are happening right now, and we're trying to stay in the game and prepare our kids. And you got half of them that are, that they're so frustrated they can't see straight, and the other guys have kind of prepared themselves a little bit. And how I had to end it was I went right with Tom, and I said, you got your athletic director who's sticking his head out every single day for you guys to help you get where you want to go and to be able to compete. So if he asks you to do something, you do it. And I said, my conversation today is because of what I heard yesterday in our staff meeting. So that's the guy I'm going to follow. So pay attention. And that gets their attention. Because the other parts are, before I said that, there was a whole lot of, guys that have this opinion or they heard this or, all kinds of stuff going on with this issue. And who really knows? On the other hand, you better follow the guy that's leading the pack, and that's your AD, and what he's done the last 2 or 3 years is off the charts.
And every school can handle this how they want to handle it. I'm not trying to say there's a right or wrong way to do this, but I do feel like BYU said, we're not looking to not compete. We're looking to compete and be safe, right?
For sure.
And I get the sense, that some schools BYU's interacted with, they don't actually want to play some of the games. It feels that way. I might be wrong. This is just me. But I appreciate that, especially in football, that led the way. BYU said, no, we're going to be the only team making this happen. And actually being independent came through for BYU. Like if BYU's in a league and they say, no, you got to just do what you got to do. You're in that league.
Right.
But being independent was actually a godsend last year. And then all the other sports got playing in the spring, and okay, away we go. And then they go 11-1. They kind of said, all right, this is how it's going to be. Everyone else follow. And everyone did.
Yeah. Unbelievable how it played out. Because you got schools that are pretty big time, close by, and they can't figure out when their next game's going to be. And we're down here playing, and you got a quarterback that's just lighting it up, everything else going on, and we just keep on winning. It was really exciting. I'm in South Carolina when that football team won that national championship in '84 on my mission, but that didn't make 1 ounce of a difference. I'm trying to stay focused and do the work, but I'm so excited I can't see straight because it's just been born and bred in this body for BYU athletics.
I love that. Okay, so you're in high school. You want to come to BYU. How does high school go with golf? And then, what's it like to actually sign and start to play at BYU?
Well, it was, obviously I knew that I had to improve. And so one of the things that I tried to do as a young golfer is to develop work and be the hardest working guy out there. And I started shooting some scores, winning some tournaments. There was some great competition. I mean, I can give you all the names that grew up in Salt Lake. One of them was Steve Schneider, one of my teammates.
I was going to say, who'd you beat, Bruce?
It was well, again, and if there was one that was probably better than most, and that was Stevie Schneider in that age group. You had Craig Wiles, you had Clark Garso. There's a bunch of guys that we played golf with. And we just, we're trying to get really good at the game and shoot the lowest scores. And I really think, I don't know, I think if there was one thing that provided me the chance to play at BYU was just my determination and how hard I worked. Because Karl knew that I would figure out a way to be, to compete. And my first year was just one of the, just building. I think I played 4 events. They were all JV events except for the Cougar Classic, and we won every one of them. And then the Cougar Classic, the first team won, second team was second. I was on the second team. But I think I shot 70, 70, 70 and finished in the top 5. Or let's go top 10, and then I'm not lying.
Top 3
but
sounds better.
It was one of those things that was I just felt really good about it. And Karl, he took the team that he should have taken. They went and won the conference championship. I went on a mission, came back. And from that point on, things had changed a little bit in the recruiting and the competitive part of it. But we had 2 first-team All-Americans. Then it was me and Jonathan Baker, Steve Schneider, Bill Nickel, Jamie Harper, Bob Call, some of those guys. And it was almost like that. When I came home, I played 3 years straight. And I was just a decent college player. I turned into a little bit better than decent because, I snuck on one of those All-American teams. But that was my senior year. But I can remember I had a 76 scoring average, 74, and then my senior year, a 72 average. And those were pretty good. Nowadays, that doesn't even get you top 400. So I kind of throw that out a little bit. But that's kind of those are the steps. And I had a decent relationship with Karl and did when I was a junior golfer. And he just said, hey, you're going to come play golf here. And I was only recruited from one other team. And like I said, it was kind of like just a privilege for me to get a shot. And then the way it worked out to be able to play so much those last 3 years it was amazing.
I want you to recruit a kid nowadays named Bob. It just doesn't exist, it feels like. Hi, I'm Bob Johnson. You were what? You were born 18 years ago and your name's Bob? That's interesting. Just a Robert that goes by Bob. I just don't hear it. And then tell me about, in other sports we talk a lot about come back from a mission and being able to play that sport. How is it with golf, with a return missionary? Because it's not a thing you can go do on a PD, I don't think. Maybe you can. Maybe your mission president's cool. I don't know how it works. But what's it like to get back into that hand-eye coordination and that whole situation?
That's a great question. In my 30 years as a coach, this is what I've seen with missionaries. They'll either come back and they get their game back really quick and just kind of, and slowly get better. That doesn't happen too often. Those are the guys that have just really good feel, and there's a few of those. Then you come back, you play pretty good, and then you hit this little bit of a dip, and boy, do you dip, and then you just got to grind, and come back out of it, and then your game comes back. And then you have the one that comes home, and they just can't find it, but they just keep digging, and I can tell you, I can go back, and I can look at rosters, and I'll chuckle and say, well, there's a kid right there that I love how passionate he was because it took him almost a year and a half. Danny Summerhays, perfect. We just, he's our volunteer assistant. We just put him on.
Oh, is he?
That guy was
That's
ready.
Fun.
He's one of those things where he's a guy that he's going to play golf or be a doctor. Okay, those were the 2 options. As he's coming out of high school, and I'm going, he's going to play golf. So anyway, he comes home from his mission, and we take him on a foreign trip, and I mean, he can't find it. He's hitting it all over the place, and he's telling me I'm done. And I said, "Whoa, we just got home." But you have to walk these kids off a cliff a little bit because they don't just because they come home. Golf should come back, and you should be shooting low scores and whatever. And,
Where are my blessings from the mission?
There you go.
You've
heard that one before.
Yeah,
well, anyway, that plays out quite often. And I mean, Danny can tell you stories where for a year he wouldn't even hit it off a tee because he was afraid it wouldn't. He was hitting it off the deck. His first year back from a mission. He's hitting it off the deck. And I think he finished in the top 10 in Albuquerque the first tournament back, and he never used a tee.
Oh, my.
So
he's got the yips sort of in the box?
Yeah, a little bit. Just Patrick Fishburne, same thing. He came
Ginger
home.
Quake. That's what we like to call
it. The guys that hit it hard and whatever, they couldn't keep it on the earth, and so It's hard to shoot a good score when you can't find your T-ball. But those are
I know
kind
that.
of the things. Yeah, those are kind of the things that those missionaries come back. And we have a young man right now that Zach Jones, who just won the Coral Canyon Amateur last weekend. It's really cool to see because he's one of those guys where we feel like he can really move the needle, right? And he came home. And, not to put any more pressure on anybody, but I was expecting him to come in and play and, and going to ride off in the sunset, if you will. And he hasn't been able to, it's been really, really hard for him.
Sure.
And so to see him shoot those scores and win last week is I'm pretty excited for him. But every kid's so different and what happens when they come home. When you leave, this game's being played at such a high level now, so many good athletes. It just takes a little time to get back and be competitive.
It's all the sports, man.
Every one of them.
It takes a sec.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I respect every return missionary that has to figure that out. And there's different challenges in every sport. And now women's sports have it, different than they've ever had it, with the church a couple years ago saying, okay, you can go, at age 19. So the women's soccer team has 5.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen Rockwood, welcome to Google Sheets. She's got to manage that. That's tougher, right?
Yeah,
and the recovery back and the whole deal. Yeah, so it's good. Speaking of, let's go down that road. So Ashton has been playing on the women's soccer team the last couple of years. By the way, how many kids do you have?
4. 3 girls and a boy.
All athletes like Ashton? Or
yeah,
is she...
they all, well, you know what? My son, who's the oldest, he's a golfer, loves to play golf. And my first daughter, she was a cheerleader, loved that, and tumbling. And Mackenzie and Ashton both played soccer, and they loved it.
That's amazing.
And Mackenzie plays on a club team over at UVU. So
nice.
Goes to school here and plays over there.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, Ashton I've gotten to know just from calling some of the games over the years. Tall, dynamic midfielder. She was fantastic. What was it like to watch her career and then ultimately culminate in the greatest team BYU's ever produced, going all the way to the national championship game and PKs?
Well, let's give credit where credit's due, that you got to give it to Ashton Brockbank. No. But the beauty of all that, she played on some unbelievable teams and so many great athletes. And from... Again, like I said, when we were talking before this, she absolutely loved her teammates, from, Elise Flake to, there were 6 or 7 seniors on that team after her first year. And that was really, really hard for Ashton to watch those kids go. And then, or maybe it was the first or second year, I can't remember. But they went, I think they lost in the Elite 8 to Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
And
2019.
And then it kind of changing of the guard. The new kids came in, and it was fun for her to be able to kind of be one of those upperclassmen, if you will, and play kind of a unique role of not playing a whole lot, but yet still trying to help the kids along, and then watch this team continue to grow and do what they did last year was just incredible. It's been, it's funny because Ashton used to dance when she was 6 or 7 years old with, that was a group thing in our neighborhood. And a guy came along. His name's Eric Brady. He coached at Timpview for a while. He came into the house and says, hey, we want your daughter we just want her to play soccer. And the coach in me is going, nah, don't come and tell me what we're going to do. We're not doing this with my daughter. She's going to do everything. And then I started kind of warming up to it. And my wife, Lisa, we kind of went along with it. She was dancing and played soccer. And then we just said, hey, Ash, what do you want to do? And she said, I want to play soccer. I'm done dancing. And I said, no, wait a second. Is this your coach? Your coach been talking to you lately? Or, what do you? And so long story short, everything else was done, playing soccer. And wow, she just had great teammates year after year after year. They end up winning a state high school, a runner-up. Mackenzie and Ashton play on the same team at Timpview. So we've had just an incredible ride. And then for her to end up at BYU the last 4 years while I was here and being here, Lisa and I have it's been one of those things where I don't know that you could write the script any better.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you're a coach here, so it's not like you have free weekends to just go watch her every second, right? Sometimes there were conflicts. Granted, the fall is a little easier than the winter there. But, yeah, what was that like in terms of well, shoot, I have a tourney with the guys. I can't be at this game.
Well, you know, first priority, you got to be with, you got to go with the team when it's your responsibility, and you go. But you know, fortunately enough, it just seemed like a lot of times we were in town when the soccer team was at home.
You emailed Jen before the season to coordinate schedules.
Yeah, that's what we were doing. And but it was we got to see a lot of the home games. Away games, I wish we would have done a little bit more, but we didn't do that. So, just part of being a collegiate coach.
Do you wear a hat every day besides Sunday?
Not always, but you know, now that I'm starting to lose my hair a little bit and a little more gray hair, it's coming out a little more often. Yeah,
because in golf, you wear a hat a lot.
Yeah, you
right?
got to do that.
Yeah, there's certain coaches on campus like you're in the all hat club. Mike Littlewood probably wears a hat like every day, although that guy's got good hair.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
He's got some good hair.
If you're Kalani in the summer, you can kind of wear that like, hey, I'm out in the garden pulling weeds deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mark Pope's not wearing a hat too much, I don't think. Chooses to shave his head. I don't know what the deal is there.
You know, if my head wasn't so round and didn't have such a concave, you know, I must have got hit pretty hard when I was younger, but I don't know that it's going to go well when it's bald, but I'm going to try it one of these days.
Yeah, some people have, it works.
Yeah.
Do you have access to more hats than most people? Because you're a golf coach?
Yeah.
You're wearing a Ping hat right now. Let's just get that,
Fortunately,
that sponsorship in there.
We've got, I've been pretty fortunate with the hat collection, yes.
I need to hit you up. It's a Nike school, but with golf, there's some other nuances there. Tell me about that.
Well, you know, it's let's go ahead and blame it on Coach Tucker. 30. Well, now that I've been here 30, so 65 to...
I was going to say, you've been here 30 years.
Let's go 65 years ago. Karl was in the process of figuring out how he was going to build this dynasty at BYU. And he's had, when I came in, you had Titleist and Ping, who were your main sponsors, and that's
both.
Like the best of the best, yeah. Because you got
different
a ball,
equipment.
shoe, glove deal with Titleist and equipment if you wanted it. And then you had Ping, who starts with the golf bag, and then they give travel gear, your uniforms, blah, 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 blah. Everything that you could possibly want as a college golfer, those are your two sponsors. And so Karl started that with Wally Uline many, many years ago, 60 years ago, and we've been a Titleist school ever since. And so when I came in, or when that Nike... the exclusive Nike deal, how long has that been?
I don't know.
It's been quite a while, but I asked them, I just said, I'm not going to ask you for much. I'll do whatever you want me to do, but I just said, this Nike deal is awesome, but what we have is a whole different deal. So please leave us alone. And for whatever reason, they were able to leave us alone, and we've been with Ping and Titleist ever since.
Interesting. I'm thinking maybe 80s. At least 90s for the Nike deal, if not more. You think? What do you think?
It seems more like 2000. I don't know.
Oh, that late?
When they were doing the contract.
Well, we know they did the stupid bibs in football in the late 90s, so it was at least then, right?
Yeah, it's after that. when you had to go where the whole athletic department, we've all
I
been.
got you.
That's when we had
not
to,
just football or basketball.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think there's 2 or 3 of our teams in the athletic department right now that have certain deals. Volleyball might be one of them, men's, but it's
with the ball
I don't
only?
know that that's changed now.
Maybe?
That's changed a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. No ASICs. It's Nike.
There you go.
Yeah, I think with the ball though, that's regulated by the NCAA. And I guess I think men's basketball and women's might use a Wilson. They use a Nike. Then they go play in the NCAA tournament and it's a Wilson, I think. But yeah, it's funny to talk about.
Right.
I like this. Okay, so you're playing at BYU. You have a very successful career, as you talked about. Are you like, yeah, I totally want to be an assistant coach here and then coach the rest of my life? What's the thought process when you graduate? Are you trying to play pro at this point?
Great question. I was I had no intentions of getting married when I was in college. I wanted to play college
You were the
golf.
anti-BYU student.
Yeah. No. I had golf on my mind, right?
Focus.
And I just wanted to play golf and not be bothered with it. But then you meet the girl of your dreams, and that goes really quick. You get married, and then you're trying to play college golf and do that and drag her through that. And then, when I graduate, I start working for Karl as the assistant. and he starts putting stuff in my head where, he's done with his career.
He's setting
and
you
he
up?
said to me on the lift up at Sundance, he goes, Bruce, I just want
During
you to
ski
know.
class?
Yeah. No.
Oh.
We're just skiing.
Oh.
We can call it ski class.
You're
But
skiing
we're up
in addition
skiing,
to
and he
that.
says to me, this is where I remember, he says, hey, Bruce, I'm going to retire here in the next few years. And he goes, you would be my number one choice to take over for me if I have that choice.
Mm.
And I thought to myself, are you kidding me? I said, be able to coach at BYU? I said, I've absolutely loved my 4 years playing golf at BYU. There's nothing like it, right? I mean, you got to remember, I am a golf junkie. I don't do a whole lot of anything other than just spend outside practicing and doing certain things. And so when he said that, it kind of started a little bit of a, you know what? I'm a decent golfer, but I also remember the guys that are the first team All-Americans, 2 of my teammates that could beat my brains out, if you will, on any given day. And then the guys that are, the Scott Verplanks and the Billy Andrades and some of those guys that are winning all the collegiate events, the first team All-Americans, I haven't touched those guys. So I'm thinking, that kind of started a little bit of a detour of me playing professional golf. So that's kind of what happened there. And then when Coach said that, I thought to myself, is that really? And so I started thinking about, I got to get my degree, then I'm going to get a master's degree, and then I'm going to be a member of the PGA. I'm going to get all that done. So when Karl does decide, I'm going to have at least a little bit of a resume. Mind you, I had no business, and he really had no business talking about that because, about that time, you got Glenn Tucker in there, you got the athletic director, and
Luckily, Glenn wasn't that opinionated about anything.
Glenn was off the charts great.
Yeah.
Because, he's the guy that I can go all day talking about those things and how it all went down. But it was one of those things where that was the turning point where I started thinking, maybe college athletics and what I was going to have to do to put myself in that position.
At this point, are you thinking, yeah, he's right. I should be the guy. But you have some hesitation, you said, because you're like, well, I'm not the most qualified, which is a natural thing to think. And did he have that influence where he could say, I kind of have our guy? Like, how did that come about?
You know what? That's the way he phrased it, if I remember correctly. He just says, if they're going to listen to me, if I have a choice, you're my number one choice. And he says, we've had a lot of good kids go through this program. Well, let's just say that's 4 years before he retired. And then so I'm his graduate assistant. And then Coach gets sick. He has a stroke when Mike Weir and the boys are here. And I remember they're in Texas, and he had a stroke. And Glenn called me and said, Bruce, you got to get on a flight and go take care of the guys. And so I went out there, and then that 2 years, I think it was, maybe 3, I was traveling. I remember taking the guys to Japan. I was kind of, his health was good. He was really, really lucky. They didn't think he was going to make it. And all of a sudden, boom, he's back and he's ready to go. But he's coaching from the sidelines. He's telling me what to do. Just stay out of the way. Take them where we need to go. And we had some pretty good success. But and then he came back and started coaching again. And then that last year with Mike Weir, when those guys went from, I think they finished 4th at the national championships at down in Monterey at Poppy Hills. That was kind of Coach's last, I think that was about 91, 92. And so anyway, I've kind of bounced around a little bit, but that's how that kind of got started. We had a lot of experience, and then boom, kind of in the right place at the right time. Got a degree, a master's degree, membership in the PGA, and Glenn said in so many words that, it's almost comical that, hey, we're going to take a shot and give you the job. And then from there you go up and meet with Elder Ashton and some of those things, and boom, you get the job and you're coaching.
Did you name your daughter Ashton after Elder Ashton? Is that,
No, that was one that my wife really liked. I wanted what was the name? I wanted a Mackenzie,
Mackenzie,
which was our daughter before Ashton. And then we fought over, I can't even remember. I'm
Yeah.
a little stressed right. No, I'm just kidding. But Ashton, Mom got the name Ashton.
Okay, do you feel like because Karl had a stroke that you had more to do at this point and that better prepared you to be ready to perhaps take the job?
No question.
You were the acting head coach essentially for a bit.
Again, I'd have to go back and look at some of the, the information that I wrote down at the time. But, to be able to have him right there telling you what to do, when to do it, at least, until you left town. And then,
He's
really,
coaching the coach.
Yeah, you're the guy. And again, sometimes the best thing you can do is stay out of their way. And I was pretty good at that because we had a pretty talented team with Mike Weir and the boys. And those guys, they had the incentive, coach being sick, hey, we're going to really show up and do what he can, invited us here to do when we came to BYU.
And it was more than enough for Glenn to offer you the job. There you go.
It was tough for him, but he gave us the shot. And 30 years later, we're still at it.
I love Glenn. Unfortunately, he passed away late last year.
Recently.
Yeah. One time during a baseball game, he was in the stands. This is probably 07, 08. And I was the sideline reporter on the broadcast with Jay Monson and Gary Scheide. Jay has since passed as well. And I asked Glenn his opinion kind of as a former baseball coach. And it was very like, what would you do in this situation right now in this game? And he said, well, Jarom, that's not a very good question. Which makes me laugh really hard. He just called me out. He didn't think it was a good question. I thought, you know what, Glenn, you're probably right. You're Glenn Tucker. I'm nobody.
But that wasn't that bad of a question.
Well, I don't even remember what the question is, probably as a defense mechanism to cope with this moment in my life.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But that showed me the fun personality of Glenn. He's just straight shooter. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's get this done. So, love Glenn. He's great. Okay, so you take over. But let's not advance that quite yet. Tell me about Karl Tucker. And Karl Tucker needs to be in the conversation of the all-time great coaches at BYU. We talk about Lavelle Edwards with football. We talk about Stan Watts and Dave Rose with men's basketball. We talk about Elaine Michaelis and now Heather Olmstead. Jen Rockwood. And Karl Tucker is the Carl McGowan in volleyball. There are these titans of coaching at BYU, right? And he is on that, multiple-faced Mount Everest. What did he do to build this program? And then later we'll get into sort of you trying to continue that and what you've done in your career.
Well, he was a really good athlete. He loved to play baseball. I think that was a baseball family. So competitive. Karl was, and he loved to compete all the time, even if he was. We're out qualifying, he would bring his golf clubs and play. And we always had a little match going on. The guy was an incredible recruiter, and he knew how to read people, in my opinion. He just had a sense or a knack of picking kids that he thought were going to do well in this environment, and did an incredible job. I mean, he just... like I mentioned, if I haven't, you just try not to mess up what he did, because he did. I mean, his 30 years here I think there was 17 conference championships. Just on and on and on. You had Bobby Clampett was the player of the year in 78, 79, runner-ups in the national championship. I mean, he had a way of getting... he knew his guys. He knew what buttons to push to get their attention, and he found a way. And so, I mean, those are the characteristics that I saw and watched him. And he just believed in you. If he didn't like what you were doing, you would know. I remember him calling me in the office and just raking me over the coals, saying, "Look, you're not getting the job done. You need to get off your..." And by doing that...
Off your what? I'm just kidding.
You need to get off your butt and get going, because it's just not good enough. And I walked out of the office, and, I kind of went, what are you? And it pissed you off, right?
Sure.
But he knew exactly what he was doing, because he knew that I would go to work. And after the fact, I would ask him when I was coaching, and, "Coach, why'd you do that?" And he'd say, "Because I knew exactly what you were going to do." He says, "Now, your teammates," and he brought up a couple of other guys, and he goes, "I never talked to them like that, because they would have quit."
He knew what buttons to push with you.
Exactly. and the rest of the players. I mean, he knew. He figured out a way to get the best out of people, and whether it was a belief or build them up or tear them down, whatever it was, he figured out a way.
That is the challenge of a lifetime, because when you're dealing with people, which are not machines, people forget this a lot.
Yeah.
I love, a calculator. It's pretty simple. I push some buttons, I get what I need. People require nuance. And if you're a parent or a sibling or a friend, everyone can relate to this to some degree. Or in this case, a coach, how you push those buttons with a player can be tricky because you don't want to push too far, yet you want to motivate. Yet sometimes, like you said, you have to tear down to build up. And, an athlete in 2022 is different than an athlete in 1982. And there's some nuance there. What are the challenges you encounter being a coach nowadays that, hey, you've had to evolve because you used to have to just rub some dirt on it and get back out there. And now we have way more nuance to student athletics.
That's another great question. You've got to figure out a way to inspire and motivate these kids. And they're a whole lot different now than they were before. I'm kind of that guy where, the answer's in the dirt, go to work. And get it done, and that doesn't always ring really loud or clear nowadays. And so, but there is a way to reach each kid, and I'm trying to figure that out. Get good people around you. I got Todd Miller, who's worked with us for 15 years. The kid, it doesn't get any better than what he brings to the table every day. And anybody else that you can bring in, we've had great volunteer assistants. Again, we don't do a bunch of that, but, we brought Danny on this year just because the timing works. We're trying to build the best support system for these kids to accomplish their dreams, and that's to be the best they can be when it comes to playing Division I college golf, and then hopefully build the foundation for the next level. But right now we got a great group of guys. I was so excited when these kids committed to come to BYU. Now they're here. Now we've got to figure out how to be, direct traffic or get them on track to accomplish what they're capable of. And we've got to do a better job.
Always seeking to be better, certainly.
For sure.
You've got a new challenge in the Big 12 coming up in a couple of years. How's golf in the Big 12?
Golf in the West Coast Conference is very, very strong. You got the
Pepperdine National Champs
last year. I think 4 years ago we had 5 of our 9 men's teams that went to the NCAA tournament. That's pretty consistent, either 3, 4, or 5. So that's really good. Obviously, the Big 12. When the Big 12 this year with Oklahoma, Texas, and Oklahoma State, probably 3 teams that are in the top 10 every year. Oklahoma State is who will be there in the Big 12, is the dynasty. Everybody wants to go there if you got any, if you have a pretty good game. Their facilities, everything that they do, you look at the 2 guys that came out after their sophomore year, Hovland and who's the other one? Well, you got Fowler, and then there's one more that's just off the charts. In fact, they're both in the top 20, and these kids left after their sophomore year. And so it's just it's a great program. But all the other teams are like they're chasing Oklahoma State. They want to beat them every time that they have a chance to tee it up with them, and that's what our goal is as well. And so great conference in the West Coast, but the Big 12 is going to be a challenge. One thing that's really exciting is the courses that you play for the conference championship. I think Prairie Dunes is in the rotation. Every 4 years you go to a different location, but the kids look forward to competing at those courses all year long because they're just the top of the top, and they're very difficult. And so that will be a challenge for us. And like I said, trying to compete, we'll be ready.
You can still do some non-conference, if you will, on the West Coast. You can still enjoy that travel, right?
Oh, for sure. And we're going to continue to do that. Our regular season stuff won't change much. However, I hope it does change a little bit because I'd like to get out to the Midwest and play with some of those teams and see what happens, because we need to figure out how to be competitive in April and May in that part of the country, and so you better spend some time there.
Remind me, was there an NCAA championships there recently that you played at in the Midwest? Where the weather was crazy?
Yeah.
One day? Remind me.
We're talking about, in, we were in Stillwater.
Yeah.
And it got a little crazy.
Yeah.
And then in Arkansas as well.
And in Arkansas. Someone hold out from 120 or something?
Yeah, that was in Stillwater, yep.
In crazy weather? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a couple
Crazy
years
weather.
ago.
That was our
Was that Zach?
That was our Sunday round on Thursday.
On Thursday.
Yes.
Was that Zach? Somebody else?
I want to say
hold out.
was it Fishburne, I think.
Maybe it was Ginger Quake.
Yeah.
Just crazy shot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so you take over the head coaching job. When do you start to get comfortable as the guy? Because I wouldn't want to be the guy. I wouldn't want to be Gary Crone. Right after Lavelle, pressure's on, baby.
Look, here's one of the biggest challenges. I knew because I grew up here, and
Right.
and I knew the tradition. I knew how important it was to Karl. I knew how important it was to me, and so to take it over and figure out how to, like I mentioned, not mess it up. It took a little while. Coach used to call me. He nicknamed me, and I think I mentioned this at Cougar Day. He nicknamed me "Win One Soon" because it was like 2 or 3 years into my career. We're at the Cougar Classic, and he's our guest speaker. It could have been the first year, but he got up and he starts telling this joke, and he brings it up, and anyway, I don't know how he put it together, but he left it with "Win One Soon," and he's talking about me, and the whole crowd's going crazy, and I thought, boy, I got my hands full here because we haven't come close to winning anything, right?
You're like, why am I sweating so much right now?
So, but that's how it started, and it was just one of those things where I was passionate about it, and I probably sacrificed family and everything else more than I should have chasing this, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't mess it up. And we've had some great years, we've had some decent years, and then we've had some pretty mediocre years. But there's been a lot of things that have happened. We've had had a few tour players. Quite a few All-Americans, not at the level Karl had it, and then quite a few academic All-Americans. And then we've been able to build some things. This new facility that we have is going to be off the charts, and that puts us on a little bit different plane, if you will, with recruiting. And so hopefully the guy that carries it on after that, that'll be leave it at least healthy enough to where the tradition continues that Karl built so many years ago.
You talking about Fox Hollow?
Yes.
Tell me about that. That's pretty cool that you're working on that facility. I've seen it in person. I need to go inside it, but
we need to get you out there.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where we have so many people in the community that are so supportive, and they know what we need to help us. To have Riverside Country Club is off the charts. We can't survive without Riverside Country Club. That's been here. Karl got that deal arranged, let's say 50 years ago would be my guess, maybe 55.
Pre-Nike deal.
Whatever, yes, pre-Nike. But whatever it was, to be able to play at Riverside, the condition and have the support of the members is it just doesn't get any better than that. But what we did need to do is, because the golf ball, the technology in the golf ball flies so far, the range that's over there, the ball just goes too far. And so it's almost not functional for our kids, our student athletes, to practice their long game over there. Long story short, we had friends of the program come over and just say, hey, there's a spot over at Fox Hollow. There's 4.5 acres. What do you think? And I said, let's just find us something. Long story short, about 4.5 years ago, we had a guy come in and say, look, I'm going to give you a certain amount of money, and I want to help you, but you got to do it now. And long story short, the next thing, about June of 2018, we're over there pushing dirt, cleaning junk out of the area, and we've got 4 greens outside in 18. And then we get this wild hair, we're going to do this 8,000 square foot building. Well, we have enough money to buy the building, so we buy it, and it lays on the ground for a year and a half until we have enough money to put it up in the air. And so, yeah, there's a great story behind it.
Up in the air?
Yeah, just to put it was a steel building, and it was laying on the ground, but it cost money to put it up.
Like a roof?
Yeah.
Oh,
Put
gotcha.
the walls up and
Yeah.
the roof.
Oh,
Anyway.
gotcha.
Well, we've had great friends of BYU golf over the years, and in the last 4 years, we've been able to put together a practice facility that, number one, gives Riverside Country Club and its members a little bit of a break from both the teams. When you have 10 men and 10 women out at Riverside at the same time, the members probably get a little bit uncomfortable.
Ryan Smith and Dwayne Wade are like, hey, we need some time on the course, right?
We need a tee time,
Come
and
on.
we need some spot on the green. So what we did was went out and we built a practice facility where the kids could kind of, Division I athletics, everybody's got to have their own facility. You got to have your own locker rooms.
Is this normal
Uh-huh.
for the big time programs?
Yep.
Okay.
There's
So
probably
we're catching up.
There's probably 75 to 100 programs out of the 310 Division I golf teams that have their own facility, if you will.
Okay.
And so what we did was we embarked on that, and now we have a place out there that is very functional. It's great when there's snow on the ground and when there's not.
I was going to say, because sometimes you guys go into a practice facility, they lower a curtain, you blast it into that. It's not the most ideal situation, but if you can go to this facility, that's pretty cool.
But I will say this, that indoor practice facility is off the charts because they've netted it. It's very functional for certain parts of the game, and we've used it all the time.
Tell me more about that process that you're
The
talking
IPF?
about. Well, they've netted it. Like, are you aiming at a certain target or something?
You've got that big building.
You're not just hitting it.
We're 130 yards long, maybe 140.
We're going to get Ryan Rico out there, and he's going to punt, and we'll see.
Yeah, whatever it is, we're
He
going to
can
get
kick
somebody.
80 plus.
But just so you know that they, for all the teams, not just golf, but everybody, lacrosse and baseball and softball, the ball flies far, and rather than flying into the cinder block all the time, which it still does, there's netting from about 15 feet up all the way to the roof. So whether it's a golf ball, a baseball, softball, soccer ball, whatever ball, football, obviously, football built it, the nets keep it from hitting windows and into the steel beams. And so it's very functional for all of our teams. Mike Weir's one of those guys that he comes down when he's in town and there's snow on the ground. He'll come in and he'll hit balls with the guys, and he says, "Wow, I wish I would have had this when I was here."
Seriously, what did you do? Were you in the Smith's Fieldhouse
That's a
annex?
great question. Annex.
Well, Ty
That
Demmer wins a
used to
Heisman, then he's training in there. Like, what is this?
One of the greatest things ever is in the Smith Fieldhouse in the annex. That used to be AstroTurf.
Back when AstroTurf used to be cool.
When it was cool. And inside that netting would be the men's and women's golf team hitting golf balls for 2 hours. Inside that, so the track team would be running around the track. We'd be hitting golf balls inside, so the ball would fly maybe 30, 40 yards. That's where all of Karl's tour players, which were many, that's where they practice.
You can do it with any practice facility in theory.
Sure. When you have guys like he was getting the
If you're
best,
an All-American.
If you're an
that will
All-American, you got that right. He would get the best player on the West Coast pretty much every year.
Did he get the best player from Provo every year?
He didn't come to Provo very often.
I'm alluding to you.
He got one that really was passionate about it when I was there.
That's you at least have that. Okay, have you played with Ryan Smith and Dwayne Wade at Riverside?
I have not played with Ryan Smith and Dwayne, but I have played with Ryan.
Can
Ryan,
he play?
He can play.
I heard he can play basketball too.
That's what I hear. I haven't watched it, but I hear he's pretty good.
And he's a good golfer.
He's a really good golfer.
Wow.
For a guy that doesn't play much, and especially now because he's pretty busy.
Why? What's he doing? I'm just kidding.
What's he do? But the beauty of it is Brian, I've played with Ryan Smith 2 or 3 times, and I'd love to play with Ryan when he's playing with Zach Blair because those two dudes go at each other all the time. And I love to play with Ryan when Danny Ainge and Brian Santiago are in the group because that is a great foursome. And
Uber
those
competitive?
Oh, very competitive. Yes. In fact, I have to tell you, Ryan Smith and Danny Ainge, at least 3 years ago, took me and Brian down, and I'm still waiting for the rematch because I'm still hot because Ainge, he likes to pop off a little bit more than he should, but I'm going to get him next time.
You're like, I have this vision of you from when I was a kid. And no, that's funny. Well, it's funny. In The Last Dance, there was a story in that doc about the Bulls. Jordan says, and people think that Danny Ainge may have, lost the series because he fired up Jordan on the golf course. I think, was it with the Suns, on an off day?
Yeah.
Because then he played with the Blazers against the Bulls as well. I was a kid in Portland watching that, crying over the Blazers losing. That's a funny story. Okay, what's the relationship with Tony Finau in the program? Because he's like uber supportive of everything here. Like Utah and BYU.
And again,
it's cool.
My Tony Finau, I remember being in his home, right? Recruiting him, for sure.
Did he come in here?
Recruiting him, yes.
I've heard this story. I've never confirmed it with you.
But the beauty of it doesn't really matter. What happened with Tony Finau is fabulous. But my part of the story is this. I was in his home. They were homeschooled. Both Tony and Gipper were there. And
Rose Park kid.
Yes,
right?
Both Rose Park kids. I'm in that home, and I just said, hey, I just want you to know that there's enough time here where I want you to come and play golf at BYU. So we worked with them. They had to do a lot of extra work. Tony, my recollection, talking to his counselor at West High School, the kid made up all of his hours to be eligible to go to BYU, okay? And there was a time where he committed to go if he was able to make up his grades. He did that. I was excited to have him coming, and then they started getting really, really good excitement coming from guys that could hit the golf ball so far. And then in April of that year, I was at the U.S. Open watching him, and he came up to me. He goes, Coach, I don't want you to waste your time anymore. I'm going to turn pro. And I said, Tony, give me 15 minutes with you and your parents. And he goes, it's too late. We're moving on. And with that, I said, okay, I'm taking the high road. And we watched him, and we watched him, and we watched him.
And unfortunately, it didn't turn out.
It didn't turn out. If there were, I love the fact that you say he's very supportive of BYU because he is.
Yeah.
By the way, he loves coming over to our practice facility and working on his game.
Oh, that's great.
It's just where nobody can get to him. He loves it.
That's awesome.
And then, but the beauty of it is that kid, he just was bound and determined, and it's unbelievable to see what he's done with his professional golf career because it took him, like most golfers when they go from college golf, it takes a few years before you make it on the PGA Tour. And he took his time, but what he's doing is just amazing.
He's amazing. Tell me about Polynesians in golf, because this is sort of a new development, which is awesome. We're seeing it on the women's team. Mm-hmm. What's it like with, I guess, kids that are coming from different backgrounds that are now playing golf? Because traditionally, this has not been a sport that's been super diverse. But it feels like it's getting more diverse, which is awesome.
And I think that's, the game of golf, I think the PGA Tour, I think the NCAA is trying to reach, more people with the way, with setting up stuff in junior golf, if you will. I don't have the answer to why, but it's neat to see these young kids that are Polynesian or any other ethnic, background or where they come from, see them playing golf because and then to have them be so successful at a young age, because there are a lot of young kids that are really good, and it almost feels like junior golf's at each year it gets better, like all the other sports. But even in junior golf, throw out Charlie Woods, there's a lot of kids. And again, I don't want to compare because what we saw with him and his dad 3 or 4 weeks ago in that Father and Sons,
that was fun.
It was unbelievable to watch that kid swing the golf club almost to the point where it might even be better than Dad. But there's a ton of kids that are playing at that age that are shooting scores that you roll your eyes and say, are you kidding me?
Wow.
Pretty neat.
That's cool. That's very cool. Okay, you still play often? You still like have that?
You know what?
I want to play drive. You're not that old.
I went 20. You know, it's funny. A good friend of mine, Mike Stanger, who just recently passed. He and I have been friends. He was another one of those kids that grew up at Riverside Country Club. But when COVID hit and we couldn't go recruit, he'd go, "Come on, Coach, let's go play. Let's go play. It's, I'm in the Utah section. Let's go play in the Price Open or some of these one-day events." Well, anyway, I don't have time. I don't have time. Well, he just signed me up. It had been 25 years since I played in the Provo Open. Because Coach came to me one day and said, "Look, if you're going to do this job right, you got to quit playing and go to work, right? Go recruit and do stuff."
Was that hard? You've been playing forever?
No, because I was kind of phasing out anyway.
Gotcha.
But he just said that's what I would recommend. And then after that, 2 years later, he goes, "Why don't you play anymore?" And I said, "Coach, you just told me to go to work." So it was almost 22 to 25 years that I had not played in a tournament on my own golf ball.
That's a long time.
Yeah, a long time. Well, I went down to the Palisades Open because Stanger wasn't taking no for anything. So me, Mike Stanger, and Eric Nielsen, and don't remember who our fourth was. We played probably in the last 2 years, we played 6 Opens together. And I think I've snuck in there and won a couple of times. But that's because all the other section guys didn't play very well. So every once in a while, I got a little bit of heat.
Hey, that's why Utah football won a Pac-12 title, because USC wasn't good, and neither was Oregon. That's my opinion.
Okay, we'll leave it at that.
That's awesome. Well, tell me about the team this year. What do you love? What are you excited about?
Again, this is a group of kids, a lot of local kids, where this group has had some big-time schools coming in, recruiting these guys, and Coach Miller and myself, we worked really hard at trying to keep them here. Well, they're here now, and like I said, we're excited about this group of kids and what we can accomplish because, most of the kids, we got a kid from Arizona, kid from Hawaii to Pleasant Grove, a couple of kids from Salt Lake. I'm probably missing somebody. We do have a South American coming in next year. Again, a lot of local kids who I think are talented, and we want to try to compete at the highest level. And so we're gonna go get after it and see if we can do that.
30 years. Have you ever been tempted or offered to go elsewhere? And why stay and continue at BYU?
I think that. I had a chance to go to Oklahoma, and it was a very unique situation. But Val Hale was the athletic director, and the AD from Oklahoma called and said, "Hey, we want to talk to your coach." And I flew out there, and I knew the coach that they had fired, and he had won a national championship like 6 or 7 years before. And so I was going in there a little bit, I'm a little uneasy about it. But I got there, I met with Stoops, it was a great experience and really quite cool. There were 2 other guys that had been there too, who are good friends of mine. And so went in there, I think they offered the job to another guy. He turned it down, and then they offered it to me. And it was one of those things where Oklahoma State is the place, and Oklahoma's trying to say, we want every bit of that. And there were a lot of reasons why I was thinking, you know what, I'm going to go tackle this. But there were a few things that said, boy, do I really want to get up every day and try to beat that over there, which was Oklahoma State, who Mike Holder, who won national championship. I think he won 3, 4, 5 of them, was the AD, has since retired just in the last 2 years. I wasn't sure I wanted to do that. The offer wasn't what I expected, and so I decided to come back here, and when I got back here, it was probably the best raise that I've ever had. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
So that's
I'm
kind
taking
of
notes on how to do that. I just need to be, courted by somebody that's pretty good. No, that's amazing.
So I don't know if that's what you wanted.
That answers, okay. Yeah, no, 100%. 30 years is a long time, man.
It really is.
How much longer are you going to be here? Hopefully a long time.
That's a great question. No, because, we'll see. I'm going to, as long as I can be effective and I can help these kids get where they want to go, then I can see myself staying and who knows? Will it be another 10 years? Will it be 2 years? We'll see.
Well, at least get us to the Big 12, okay?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think
that's a year and a half.
2 years we're going to be there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's coming up quick.
You bet. It's, and like I said, I feel like I was in the right place at the right time. They gave me an opportunity, and to be here 30 years has just been there's not a better job on campus, in my opinion. And so it's almost been 30 years of just, other than the stress that I put myself through, and a few of the administrators that, they like to chew on you a little bit, which they should. Other than those kind of things, it's been an absolute dream, and so we hope we'll continue to influence kids' lives and help them get a degree and be better in their communities and everything else they do.
Well, it's fun to watch your team. They're awesome, and they're good dudes. It's fun to interview them and talk to you on the reg, and good luck with everything. We look forward to a great season again for BYU men's golf.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll do it for us. For Bruce Brockbank and producer Tanner Graff, I am Jarom Jordan. You can listen to previous episodes on the BYU Radio app or where podcasts are found. You've just listened to Deep Blue on BYU Radio.